Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer, here joined by Justin Fan. Health and safety protocol season is hitting everywhere, and it has hit Established Run's NBA team as well. We're not certain that Mike Gallagher has COVID, but has a lot of symptoms, isn't feeling so well, so took the day off. Justin, an emergency fill-in. Really appreciate having you here. I know you've had a hectic day over at Underdog Fantasy as well with the launching of the new NFL line on Twitter as well. So why don't you give the people the update on where they can find all the latest information and news on the NFL side as well?
Yeah, same deal. Underdog _NFL. Jay and I are gonna oversee that. We've just hired two guys. We're training them right now. They've been doing great. So excited to kind of close out the season in a busy fashion. A lot of rest, a lot of teams maybe playing guys a half on Sunday. So we'll stay on top of that. Excited to be signed to ETR on a 2-day hardship.
Yeah, hopefully it won't be like the NBA 10-dayers where you somehow catch COVID through the interwebs and then just like Ursan Ilyasova collect your check to see how much you would pay to get COVID.
Kind of weird, man. It's like those guys are just getting paid to get COVID.
To have COVID.
It's crazy.
It's like what some of the tech bros were ready to do at the beginning of the whole pandemic, right? It was like, just inject me now and give me the antibodies and I'll take the money. All right. So I don't know how you've felt about the last few days, Justin, but I feel like we're starting to hit a little bit of a turning point on the NBA stuff. Now, a little bit more of the show is going to be about kind of players that are coming back as opposed to players that are going out and onto the list. I think that's going to continue to happen over the next few days. And then I think I'm hoping like late next week, we're going to settle down a little bit. What is your thought on like timeline of like maybe return to normalcy here?
Yeah, I mean, the Hawks are the perfect example. They've had like 13 guys in protocols seemingly for a week or two now, and I think they're down to just a couple now. I think John Collins just cleared right before we went on the show. He's supposed to be back next game, hopefully. So, yeah, I mean, guys are getting out of protocols. I think it's great to be talking about actual situations and plays and not just talk about, Charlie Brown Jr. and all these like 10-day guys that I've never heard of or warning of. So yeah, excited to talk some more normal rotation players.
Yeah. Now. Before we get into it, at the Dynasty always brings good energy in the chat, saying his notifications are on fire with Underdog, NBA, and NFL. So much so that his wife thinks he's cheating on her. I don't know if that's a testimonial for #testimonials for Underdog Fantasy, but open communication with your loved ones out there. Make sure they know what's going on. All right, let's get into the injury stuff today. I want to start with kind of the new out situations, and then we'll work through some of the questionables and then some of the players that are returning, how it impacts rotations tonight. On the new outside, I want to start in Philadelphia. They're going to get Doc Rivers back. He's going to be back out of health and safety protocols and coaching. But they're without Tyrese Maxey into health and safety protocols, and then Shake Milton with a back injury. And we know what they're willing to do, which is slide Seth Curry over to the point guard spot, basically move Furkan Korkmaz into that starting lineup. They're also without Matisse Thybulle still, so they're a little bit shorthanded on the wings. How do you expect them to cover some of these minutes in the loss of Maxey and Milton, their two primary ball handlers normally?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty heavy run for Seth Curry. At least 35. We saw Furkan Korkmaz got up to 36 last game.
Yeah.
Danny Green still seems somewhat limited. He only played 23 in that start, so can't really count on him. But yeah, I mean, Shake Milton's like a pretty decent sized loss for this backcourt. I imagine we'll see a really good amount of Isaiah Joe now, and we might see. I don't know if they go deep enough to like dust off Charlie Brown Jr. or they just like run kind of bigger lineups and slide guys over and up. And run more like I don't know. It's kind of tricky. They are pretty short on bodies on the bench.
Yeah, I think Paul Reed is out. Thybulle, they're just kind of thin back there. So we have seen Doc play really, really tight rotations when they've been shorthanded in the past. So I would expect the main guys, Curry, Korkmaz, Tobias, Joel, all to play a ton here. And possibly have some of that really, really big fantasy upside that we've seen. They were slate winners last time out with Korkmaz having a huge game. Embiid had a huge game. So I think you can go back to the well on Philadelphia guys tonight. Let's move over to Oklahoma City, where they only have one big injury on the injury report. It's Lou Dort, who's out with a knee issue. Again, not health and safety protocol, so this is good to see that we're starting to turn that corner on this stuff. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey expected to play. How do they handle the loss of Lou Dort? Who benefits there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be SGA, Wiggins, and Giddey at 1 through 3, right? And I think those guys will play pretty big minutes. I am disappointed we won't see more of Josh, Point Giddey. He's almost like approaching a triple double every time he gets the start at point guard when SGA is out. So I think those three are pretty set in their spots. Theo Maledon, Ty Jerome, big minutes off the bench, significant roles, in the backcourt, and maybe some wing minutes too. I am curious to see who they start at the 4. They went away from Paul Watson. Pokashevsky got in there, but maybe he was kind of a stopgap when SGA was out. They needed a little bit more playmaking in that first unit. They prefer Kenrich Williams second unit for sure. He'll play a good role off that bench at the 4. I am curious to see if you think they still keep Poku in that starting lineup. It's either like Poku, Kendrick, or Paul Watson, right?
I think it'll be Paul Watson and then have Poku and Kenrich, which a little bit more ball handling in the second unit. I think exactly what you said is what I thought they were doing with Poku, which is we don't have SGA. We need a little bit more ball handling here, secondary ball handling with Giddey. I still think you'll see Giddey run a ton of point essentially in this game, just because I think they'll want Shea's shooting and spacing, which they usually use Dort for. And I think they'll also use Shea a little bit more proactively defensively. Like Dort usually has the toughest responsibilities. They might use Shea a little bit more in those spots. And so they might just ease some of the ball handling responsibilities from him. So I think Giddey still has a pretty big upside here without Dort.
Another guy that we have to mention too that is in the mix is Darius Bazley. He's supposed to be back too, but he did come off the bench the last 4 games that he played, and I think he's way better suited in that reserve role. He played pretty well, very bad for the most part, offensively, especially for the start of the season. He came off that bench, he kind of turned things around, had some good games. So I would think he comes off the bench too, right?
Yeah, that would be my expectation. Need a little bit more scoring in that second unit. And also, I think he's better suited to take it. Like, he's a little bit out of position size-wise in the NBA, and I think he's just better as a reserve that can score a little bit off the bench. I think that's a long-term role for him. Let's go to Milwaukee, where Milwaukee's kind of a mess tonight. Giannis is going to be out with a non-COVID illness, could be just kind of a rest situation. They've got 3 guys in health and safety protocols that have cleared, but we don't know if they're going to play tonight. And Jordan Nwora, Thanasis Antetokounmpo, and who am I blanking on?
Semi Ojeleye.
And Semi Ojeleye, yeah. So they've got 3 kind of wing, bigger wing 4 guys that would fill some of those minutes from Giannis naturally. They're without Pat Connaughton. They're without Grayson Allen. They're without Dante DiVincenzo. They're really, really thin on the wings. So I think you're going to see a ton of Drew Holiday, a ton of Chris Middleton. And then right now, we're currently expecting Wes Matthews to slide into the starting lineup. Could be Wes Matthews, could be George Hill. It's kind of a huge mess for Milwaukee. So what are you thinking they do to try to figure things out here?
Yeah, so preliminarily, my guess would be George Hill and Jordan Nwora if he's available, just because they've started in the past. Could see Wes, but it's pretty thin, like you said. I would think Middleton slides to the 4 in this matchup because he can. He's 6'7", 222, and they're playing a 6'7" OG, a 6'7" Scotty Barnes. So I think you can get away with sliding him to the 4 in this spot. And we kind of saw that before in the last couple of games that Giannis missed when they kind of booted Mamu out of the rotation, right? So I would think it's like Drew, Hill, Nwora, Middleton, Portis, and then Wes Matthews plays a big role. Rodney Hood has to play a lot. And then Boogie's obviously a huge part of this too in that bench.
Do you think we see any Boogie Portis overlap?
I think we could, yeah. I mean, they are playing a team with Siakam, Birch, and Precious, right? So, they can have a tendency to play some bigger front courts, and they, especially if like some of these guys.
I think if they don't have the Nwora, Thanasis semi group, I think you have to see it just because they need NBA players out on the floor. Yeah, but I think if they have those guys, it might be pretty limited. But I think there's the upside for it. The good news is they still have Giroux and Chris. They can run a ton of offense through those guys and still create a decent amount of looks with Portis or Cousins on the floor. So I think, they'll stagger Giroux and Middleton a lot. You'll see huge rates from each of those guys. They'll obviously start the game and close the game together, but in the middle parts of the game, I think they'll be completely staggered and basically running the offense entirely. if Nwora is in there, he's a guy that can soak up usage, but the rest of the guys that they're considering cannot. It's basically Portis, Cousins, Drew, Middleton. All the other guys are like spot up shooters. Wes, Semi, they're not going to be able to create shots for themselves. So Milwaukee's going to be a place to attack tonight. As the sirens close in on me, I'll go back to your hometown Warriors. No Iguodala, no Otto Porter Jr. tonight. How are the Warriors going to handle things?
I mean, they have plenty of depth. This team is just so spoiled with their bench. So they'll have guys kind of filling in for them. Do you think anything like really moves the needle for you? I think Jordan Poole has kind of excelled in that 6-man role. He had a huge game, but yeah, they'll have like more Damian Lee. They can maybe throw some like JTA Kuminga, but nothing that really moves the needle. This offense still runs through Steph Curry.
They're too good. They're too good. They're too deep. You're going to get occasional Steph and Dre explosions, and you're going to get occasional role player explosions when it's on the right night because they're so good as a team. But it's going to be really hard to predict from a DFS perspective when to invest here because they are so deep. Best team in the NBA. All right, Miami, no Jimmy Butler tonight. That means no Jimmy Butler, no Bam Adebayo. They do get Max Strus back from health and safety protocols, which is needed. They have 11 eligible players, but they can only play 10 because they have 4 COVID players that are out. And so you can only use COVID replacements for COVID players. They have 6 COVID replacements. They can only use 4 of those tonight. I think they'll have plenty of guys to build out a rotation and whatnot. And Kyle Guy's been the guy who stepped in and played decently of late. But how do you expect Miami to attack in the absence of Jimmy Butler? Is it another Tyler Hero 25 field goal attempt type night?
Totally. And I think they run an 8-man rotation again. They ran an 8-man rotation last game, and you just sub in Jimmy Butler for Max Strus today, right? They run that same 8-man rotation. Maybe a tweak today in that lineup. You maybe see Tyler Hero in that second unit, PJ Tucker move in the starting lineup. We'll see. But I mean, it doesn't really affect Hero that much. He's going to see a ton of minutes, a ton of usage regardless. Any other guys you're interested in here? Lowry, Strus, you're at 7, Caleb Martin, any of those guys interested?
Yeah, I mean, I think just anytime a team's going to run an 8-man rotation, you got to be interested, right? And from a matchup perspective, it's a pretty good spot on the whole. Yeah. So I'm pretty interested in Miami guys tonight. Haven't dug in too much on the value side of things where the slate is because I've just been moving news all morning. But I'd imagine, Miami, when they're willing to play guys into the mid-30s is definitely going to grab my attention, especially in a matchup against Portland, who's been so bad defensively. The amazing thing is with all this stuff, Miami's favored in this game.
Yeah. I mean, Portland without Dame, and
I know, but like it's just crazy with no Jimmy, no Bam. And I
mean, they were pretty competitive with Golden State, even when Jimmy went down with an ankle injury, right?
It's a testament to that organization, man. They just always guys always play hard there, and Spo's just such a good coach.
Guys pass off for sure, and then you got Chris Silva who has familiarity, so they can just guys right in.
Yeah. On the other side of that game, Portland, we add Larry Nance Jr. He's doubtful. I have him in the outs group now, but it's doubtful with health and safety protocols, so I'd be really surprised to see him return. The good news is they got Nurk back last game, so they got Nurk and Covington back. They can kind of cover some of these front court minutes. They're going to need that size against Yurt 7, who's just a big body in their rebounding. So Yurt 7 versus Nurk, it should be fun to watch tonight. But how else do you think Larry Nance Jr.'s absence impacts, along with McCollum and Dame also out for Portland?
Yeah, I mean, it should be Covington, you would imagine, getting back in that starting lineup. I don't think they have many options. It's like Watford, Dennis Smith Jr., Macklemore. Is their bench. It's going to be heavy minutes again for their main starters. We see Anthony Simons got to 39, Nortel 36, Nasir Little 36. So it should be big minutes for those guys again. You would think Nurk kind of ramps up as many as he's going to get more than the 26, especially in this spot, like we mentioned, against your 7. So I mean, this is a good spot on both sides.
Tight rotations breed tight rotations.
Caleb Martin on the other side, I like him too. I memean, this is going to be a good spot. Anthony Simons, good on him. And you saw the interview afterwards about, his grandfather passing, I believe. Just happy to see him ball out, and I feel bad for Trey on the other side. We'll get to that spot.
56 and 14, my word. One last player that's ruled out on health and safety protocols, Joe Ingles for Utah, and it gives us an opportunity to talk about Utah as a whole because they are probably the most interesting injury team on the slate. And I don't know the last time I said that. It has to have been years. This is the first player that they've had impacted by health and safety protocols all season is Joe Ingles. So they've largely avoided this stuff. Obviously, they were kind of the center of the NBA's first reaction to the pandemic with Rudy Gobert. And since then, they've largely been healthy. But tonight, Gobert is questionable. Whiteside is questionable. Azubuike is questionable. That's their three centers that they've got. Royce O'Neal, their power forward, is questionable. Bojan Bogdanovic is questionable. They're starting small forward / utility scorer. So this is a team that it has a lot of questionable tags. It's a late game. Do you have any leans on whether these players? I know Gobert did not go through shoot around.
Yeah. So when I first saw this injury report, this is like an extremely long injury report, especially for Utah. You never see this many players, especially core players of theirs on the injury report. They generally run really well, like you said, with injuries, with COVID. So when I first saw this injury report, I was like, this looks like just a rest spot, mail it in rest spot for Utah, where they just all these questionable guys sit. They just kind of mail it in. They give those guys a night off, right?
You should have held that Mie Oni trade for one more day, man.
Right, exactly, right. But this is an ESPN national TV game. That also gives me pause on the other side, where maybe this is a spot where they maybe have a little bit more incentive for these guys to play, in this.
They're an organization that cares about that too. They care about not getting the respect that they've deserved the last few years.
Fan base clamors are all the time. No one cares. No one talks about us. Nobody pay attention. We're good. It's different here.
Yeah. They just want to hear about screen assist, Justin. That's really all the Jazz fans want to hear about.
Exactly. So they are really thin on the back end, though. If these guys miss, it's like Trent Forrest, Eric Paschall,
Elijah Hughes.
I don't like Malik Fitz, Azubuike, Jared Butler. You don't want to get too far in. So two of those three guys, questionable guys, miss. At least two or three of those questionable guys miss. You're in trouble here, right? I would just lean towards Gobert maybe being closer to doubtful, just because he didn't go through shoot around. That's just historically is probability wise, that's the case. Usually in that situation, Whiteside looks like he's more on the probable side, did go through shoot around. So it would be Whiteside and Rudy Gay, manning that center spot. Good spot, like those spots for both. And then huge spots for Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Clarkson. So, those are the three I think you kind of focus on. Conley, Mitchell.
If Gobert sits, Whiteside's going to be the chalkiest play on the slate. He's obviously been a huge producer in his career whenever he's gotten minutes and playing time. I also would say that Jokic will absolutely torch him on the other side. So this could be a game to look at both center options, honestly, because Whiteside's so cheap. Okay, let's move to some of the players that are questionable. You want to talk about Atlanta. Trae Young is on the injury report with a back injury, which I think is all from just carrying the Hawks last game with 56 points and 14 assists, putting the entire team on his back. And here he is with back soreness just a few days later. Him and Cam Reddish are both questionable. Reddish with an ankle issue. What are your thoughts on their availability tonight?
Both of them went through shoot around. They're going to be game time decisions. Joe Prunty said they both look fine, so I will lean towards them playing. I looked up historically. Players putting up comparable numbers in a regulation loss has never happened.
I can't imagine.
6-14. There's been 52 and 12s. Jokic put up one time. Russ put up 51 and 10, but 56 and 14.
I can't imagine. That's 85, 90 points that you've created for your team. That's just on you. That's insane. That's almost deserving of Wilt stuff there. Have Trae hold up the 88 or whatever, how many points he contributed to there in a loss. Okay. PJ Washington, health and safety protocols. He's questionable for Charlotte. Do we think that he returns tonight?
I don't have a strong lean. I will lean towards yes. And if he does play limited minutes, so I think that's just kind of a depth piece.
If he's in the rotation, it does hurt some of the ceiling of Miles Bridges, Gordon Hayward, Mason Plumlee specifically. Although Plumlee, I think, has played well enough to stick to these low 20s, mid 20s minutes, especially if Washington's eased back in. So I think the Plumlee thing, it hurts a little bit, but you might still have another game before it really starts to hurt things on Plumlee as they work PJ Washington back in. On Orlando side, we've got Cole Anthony and Wendell Carter Jr. both questionable. I swear these guys are like a duo. They're either both questionable at all times, or they're like both in, or they're like both out. It's like, I don't know what's going on with biorhythms between these two guys. Cole Anthony with the ankle issue that he's been dealing with for a while now. Wendell Carter Jr. with a non-COVID illness.
Yeah, I mean, Cole went through shoot around, so looks like he has a good chance of playing. He's missed the last 5 games with the injury. So I mean, it's
and basically like in like 8 of the last 9, something like that too, because he came back for like 1 game and it didn't really work out.
Yeah, so we see like Tim Frazier has been like kind of spotty. He saw big minutes some games, and last game he only played like 18 minutes. They played a lot of RJ Hampton off the bench instead. I think Cole's the centerpiece of this offense when he plays. So massive usage. Matt should be pretty good minutes. It's an ankle injury, not COVID, not conditioning. So I mean, that just changes everything if Cole ends up returning.
In terms of players that are going to return tonight, some names, some big ones on the list. First and foremost, Kyrie Irving. We're going to have Kyrie back for Brooklyn tonight in Indiana. Obviously, from a DFS perspective, I think it almost immediately takes out Harden and Durant from consideration, just because those guys are not going to be able to maintain the same type of rates they were. It takes almost all of Brooklyn out of consideration at this point until their prices move down. But what do you think in terms of Kyrie's minutes for his return right now? Do you think he'll be eased in? They kind of didn't commit to whether he'd start or not, which, I mean, he's never not started. So I would be surprised if he didn't.
I would be shocked if he didn't start, especially like Patty Mills is the guy in there. Patty is a bench guy,
They need to ease the minutes on Patty too. Like they need to take the foot off the gas on that too. So what are you thinking for minutes? Like we've got 30 for Kyrie right now.
I think that's fair. Nash said he won't play him 38 minutes.
Very helpful. Yeah.
Thank you. In his first game back, first game of the season.
We've got 47 more combinations to check off on the list.
Right. But I think 30 is reasonable. They have, good depth in this spot. This total has been climbing over the course of the day. I think it was like the overnight. I got 6.5 last night, I believe. And it's at 9 right now. In this case, you're seeing it's just dreadful. They're like 4 and 17 in clutch situations. They're just brutal.
It's like
back to back. They're short without Brogdon, Levert, Lamb, Duarte. It's not good. I mean, there's no reason for Nash to get crazy here with the minutes. And then you have the usage docs and the blowout potential minute docs for the guys like Harden and KD as well. So I think it's just kind of a spot to stay away from altogether.
Boston's getting Jason Tatum back tonight. They had a bunch of guys like on the injury report listed. Robert Williams available as well. What do you expect for Boston tonight? No Peyton Pritchard for them. He's out with health and safety protocols as he went into the protocol system.
Yeah, they have a lot of guys back though to kind of make up for that depth. So Tatum, Robert Williams, Romeo Langford, Aaron Nesmith, Jabari Parker, and Enes Greenham all available. So as usual, this team is very Jalen and Jason centric. What do you think about the spot for Robert Williams? Are you worried about any sort of limitations at all in his first game back, or?
I'm just worried in general that they have enough depth that they can play this a lot of different ways. In the Spurs, Pirtle's a handful inside for guys who like to gamble a lot, which Time Lord likes to gamble a lot defensively. So I do worry about the floor with Time Lord in this specific spot against Pirtle, who's just so solid as a player. Offensive rebounder will compete on the offensive boards. If you chase block like a driver, he'll be right there for the putback. So I could see some scenarios where Time Lord's defensive habits limit the playing time tonight. I'm a little bit concerned.
For sure.
Okay. Other injury returns tonight. Minnesota, the big one. D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns coming back. Kat had some comments, and man, nobody in the NBA has been more impacted by COVID than Karl Anthony Towns. Obviously lost a lot of family members to it. And this time he said, he was pretty ill. And I think he said he lost 15 pounds, which is remarkable. I mean, these guys are big dudes. So 15 pounds is a small percentage, but that was pretty eye-opening to me. I'm a little bit concerned that there might be some minutes limit or easing in of Kat here. What are your thoughts?
I'm with you. They were out Monday due to conditioning. And Finch was asked afterwards if he thought the two would be able to play on Wednesday. He's very non-committal about it. He was saying they're going to see how they look. They're going to see how they really are once they get back to Minnesota. Obviously, both are on track to play the report this morning, so they look to be on the probable side. But yeah, I mean, I definitely expect them to be eased back in initially.
Yeah.
This is a 9-point spread as well for Minnesota at home, getting some guys back against the OKC defense without the best player in Lou Dort. So yeah, just a rough spot overall. And then we're going to see, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Noel, Malik Beasley, Naz Reid, their usage rates all come down.
Yeah.
They were just kind of, Naz Reid was put up some.
Great. That's another reason that I think Cat's minutes will just be eased here. Is Naz has been playing well enough to earn a little bit of a bigger role here. Wouldn't be surprised to see Cat end up around like 28 tonight. So just would avoid the upside there for tournaments. DeJounte Murray for San Antonio expected to return tonight. Do you think there'll be any limitations there?
Maybe slight limitations. It was good that this was the plan. I think they held him out. Last night, right? The first day of a back-to-back. He met the team today. I mean, the Pop said that was the plan yesterday. So some slight limitations, maybe lowers the ceiling a little bit. Just generally though, like if you're not a Toronto Raptor and your coach is not Nick Nurse, I generally am skeptical of what your minutes will be in your first game back, right?
Yeah, we shaved about a minute and a half off is kind of what we're doing with most of these guys in their first game back from protocol, with the exception of the Raptors, who just run their guys into death. Last name I want to talk about tonight, Monte Morris. He's technically questionable on the injury report with the health and safety protocols, but he tweeted out the "I'm back." So in the day of news chasing that I know you guys spend all of your time doing, this is what it is, right? It's monitoring players' Twitters to see if they're tweeting gifs about their return.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I saw that tweet. I mean, most of the time it actually comes true and is more right, more than not. We got God, I would say, with the Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah, same.
The Vince McMahon WWF out. I thought it was like, okay, like you might have a chance, but I guess he definitely was not clear. So yeah, I would expect Monte more than likely to be eased in as well. They do have some depth there with Facu, at the point. So and Bones is back too. So I think the interest in this spot is just with Denver in that front court, in that matchup potentially with Jokic and Whiteside.
Yeah, definitely agree. All right. Any other injury situations that I missed, Justin, that we should tackle before you get out of here?
1 second. Let me run down my list real quick. Brogdon, Duarte, doubtful.
Yeah.
That's the same. That hasn't really changed. I think that about covers it.
Fantastic. Well, Justin, I appreciate the 2-day contract here that we signed you to and being able to get you to step in for Mike Gallagher. We're all wishing Mike Gallagher a quick recovery, and so he can get back on the show as quickly as possible. But we will take it from here. Without Mike, we've got good people in place to be able to fill in. If you are subscribed to Established Run's NBA Premium DFS content, you will find myself and Gary Hartman behind the paywall today at 5 o'clock Eastern, breaking down the DFS slate. If you're not subscribed, please at least hit the subscribe button here. Make sure you get notifications when we go live, as you did today when we had to change the time to 2:30 to accommodate the injury report madness this afternoon. And make sure to click the like and subscribe button. It'll give you little lightning bolts when you do it. You'll feel so good inside supporting our good content. So best of luck out there in all your games tonight. Enjoy the NBA tonight. Thank you, Justin. And we will see you guys again tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern. Take care.